James Harden on the Clippers has been an absolute disaster. They went from one of the best teams in the league to one of the worst teams in the league pre and post trade, and we have to figure out what they're doing wrong and if this is actually all James Harden's fault. First problem for the Clippers, they don't have enough spacing with their 5 best guys. Russ and Zubac are not good floor spacers, and you need spacing if you're going to have Harden out there. He's used to spacing. He's at his best when you have good spacing, and these kinds of weird, clunky offensive possessions just don't make any sense to me. Okay, let's get Harden at the elbow so that he can create. I guess, sure, normally he's better in space, but if you want to have him create from the elbow, that's fine. We're going to run Paul George off some stuff. We're going to run Kawhi off some stuff, and everybody's just going to run around for about 20 seconds. But see if you can spot the problem. Watch the play run and see if you can spot the issue with everything that they're doing here. None of this is creating any space. None of this is working at all, and the reason is because of the guy that ends up taking the shot. Now, no disrespect to Russ. He's figured out a way later in his career to be productive. He's been helpful for the Clippers. But now, with Harden there, if this is going to happen, especially against Memphis, they've got Jaren Jackson, one of the best defensive players in the league. If this is going to be a thing, it's not going to work with James Harden and Russ on the floor at the same time. This is how you end up with a minus 28 in 28 minutes when you're James Harden, because the spacing isn't there. You know you need spacing with him, and they don't have it. Whether it's Zubac, whether it's Russ, they don't have it. So it's cool that you're running all this off-ball stuff, and you want James Harden to be the facilitator, and you want him to create. That's fine, but you have created nothing but a brick by Russell Westbrook. Now, the other guy that's been a problem for them all year long, even before the trade, is Zubac. They have just gotten zero production out of the 5 spot. Now Plumlee is hurt. They're going to try and run a little bit of a screen here to get Paul George going to the rim, and then Zubac is going to come up, set a screen, and this is going to be classic James Harden stuff. Things are going to be spaced. We're going to have him attack the rim and create. The problem is the big just isn't good enough right now. This is classic James Harden. This is something that you want to see from him. It's the reason you trade for him. He creates an easy bucket for a guy that's typically a role player. This is why you trade for James Harden. Here's the screen. He's going to read this correctly. Biyombo's going to drop off too much, leave too much space. Marcus Smart doesn't get there in time, and Zubac smokes the layup. Now, to be fair to Zubac, this isn't as easy as some of the other James Harden stuff has been in the past, because the Clippers are doing some of this stuff, right? They're going to have Russ come and set this screen. Ideally, after they get this set, Harden's going to drive. And what they're hoping to do is have this pass be an option, because they know that Russ isn't going to space. So they're going to try and have him set the screen, hope that the defender sags off of Russ too much, and get Paul George an open 3 in the corner. That doesn't happen, but because of all this, because of the congestion on the left side of the floor, it's not as good of a look as you'd hope for it to be, because here comes, once again, Jaren Jackson. Just like we saw in the first clip, he's screwing up a lot of stuff for them at the rim. Now, if you're Zubac, this has got to be a make. This has got to be a layup, or you've got to kick it out to Kawhi over here in the corner, or you've got to get it to Paul George on this side. It's a tough play for a big that's not used to making plays, but this guy, the 5-man for the Clippers, has been a disaster, and you need a good one if you're going to have Harden operating at full strength. Now it's 7-0 to start the game. Look at Ty Lue. Ty Lue's over it, man. He's like, okay, let's not do the Harden stuff anymore. Let's go back to who we are. Let's get Paul George. Let's get Kawhi involved. Immediately, they get an open look for 3. Now, the difference is Russ makes this one. Russ bricked the one that Harden passed to him earlier, but this is just the Clippers going back to what they do. Harden is kind of involved. It's interesting that they actually are guarding him this way, because Harden doesn't really want to shoot, catch, and shoot 3, so it's interesting they're giving up that much space. This is a great pass by Paul George, and immediately, as soon as they go away from doing stuff with Harden, all of a sudden they're making shots. Now, obviously, it's a make or miss thing, and Russ happened to make that one, but still. Now, for some positives, I love this possession. I love everything about this for the Clippers. This is what the James Harden Clippers should look like. We've got Paul George in the corner over here off the screen. We've got Norman Powell in the corner over here. We've made some changes. No more Russ on the floor. There's a different 5 that's not Zubac, and Kawhi is setting a screen on the ball for James Harden. This is what the Clippers should look like. This guy should be Paul George or Kawhi when they're all 3 on the floor at the same time. This should be a better 5 than Zubac. Ideally, they get one at the trade deadline. This should be a spacer. This should be a spacer. This is James Harden offense. This is why you trade for the guy. This is what you want to have happen. You both set a screen at the top. The Grizzlies screw up the communication because these guys are not used to guarding screens together. Kawhi is wide open here if you want him. Paul George is an option. This guy's rolling to the rim. Everything about this is right. This is what they should look like. The problem is this guy smokes the dunk. But this is exactly why you trade for Harden. This is what the offense should appear to be if you want to prioritize him. Don't do this weird crap that we did the possession before where we're trying to feed him in the post, have Kawhi set an on-ball screen, have the 5 set another on-ball screen, and space. Have spacers on the floor. Give this entire middle of the floor to James Harden to create. This is what he does. Yes, you'd like him to make the dunk, but this is what he does. Now, this is going to be a miss by Harden, but this is another thing that he has to do. If I make more videos on Harden, we're going to talk about this all year long. He has to shoot catch and shoot threes. He cannot be doing weird stuff when he catches the ball off the ball, catch it and shoot it. He misses this, but this has to be a thing. It has to be a part of the Clippers offense. It's something that he, for whatever reason, never wants to do. He never wants to shoot catch and shoot threes. It's just not a part of his game. This needs to be a thing. This is good offense. Harden's a good shooter, good offense. Now, this has been all offense so far. You know we got to throw in some defensive lowlights in a James Harden video. This is Santi Aldama, not exactly a great driving player. He's just going to get it right to the rim and just get an easy layup. It's just like, this has to be mentioned as a part of the package with James Harden. Now, as annoying as it might be to watch sometimes, this is something that the Clippers have to do. They have to let James Harden be himself. They have to let him do what he's best at. And this is what we talked about earlier, okay? There's no double screen this time, but it's just a little bit of a screen at the top. He's going to get to the rim and he's going to make the right choice. If this guy comes in too much and you leave this guy open in the corner, he's going to find them. It's going to be weird. It's going to be hard to mesh together the play styles of guys like this. Kawhi, Paul George isn't on the floor right now, but those two guys, they don't play like this. But this is how James Harden plays, and they've got to figure out a way to mesh these styles together because these are good shots. He's creating good stuff for a team that offensively sometimes needs help creating good stuff, especially when their best players aren't on the floor. This has to be part of the offense. And again, like, there are some good things here. This is awesome. I love this. We have Kawhi setting a screen on the ball. We're going to get him right to a spot that he loves in the middle of the floor. Kawhi loves the mid-range game. We'll get better at the timing, so the pass is a little bit more on point. This is fine. This is good offense. You don't love long twos, but if it's Kawhi, who's a good mid-range shooter, you're fine with this. It's a little awkward because we have a big down here that's kind of clogging things up. But this, again, I'm going to keep saying it. You have to have the James Harden offense look like James Harden. These are good shots. Maybe Kawhi can drive this, but these are good attempts. This is good stuff. It's not all bad for the Clippers. Again, Harden's going to bring the ball up. We've got Kawhi on an early steal on Luke Kennard here. We're going to have an easy pass over the top. Defense is going to rotate, and we're going to create an easy bucket for a role player. Harden can create easy shots for you if you allow him to, and this is just another great example. And we talked earlier about the fit between Russ and Harden and how that's going to be a problem. Same thing with Zubac. Well, these guys can play when Harden isn't on the floor because Russ can create. Zubac's over there. We've got Powell, Terrence Mann, and then Paul George. We can have our one-star lineup here. The thing is, we just can't have Harden out there when Russ is out there, so his minutes are going to be really limited. And now without Harden out there, all of a sudden the Clippers look like the old school Clippers. They're using their size. Russ is getting physical on a smaller guard. They're going to get in the paint. They're going to attack the rim. They're going to beat you on the offensive glass. They're going to guard. All of a sudden, they look like the Clippers again without James Harden out there. And I think that's what's going to end up happening is they're going to be basically two different teams. They're going to be the Harden team, and then they're going to be the old Clippers. The problem is, how do you finish games with all three of those guys on the floor at the same time? How do you get this guy involved and mesh the styles of everybody together at the end of games? Like, look at this defensive possession. Look at the energy level that Terrence Mann is bringing. Paul George is chasing a guy off the screen. Russ is communicating down here at the bottom of the screen. Terrence Mann is everywhere. They are all over it on this defensive possession. They're rotating. They're causing havoc. They're causing chaos. Russ is there for the contest, and they miss. And offensively, now that all these guys are on the floor together, just look how awkward and clunky this possession looks. I seriously, I know it's only been a few games. I seriously don't think this lineup can play together. I don't think Russ and Harden can be on the floor at the same time. Look how awkward this looks. We're getting a Kawhi post up, that tries to kick it back out. They bobble the ball. We're getting back to the post up now. Harden cut off the ball. Then we've got Russ. He gets to the rim and he smokes the layup. There's just these four guys right here do not know how to play together. And maybe they'll figure it out eventually, but specifically the combination of these two guys, him not being willing to be an off-ball spacer and him not being one, I think it's going to continue to be an issue, and I don't know how they're going to be able to start or end games well with this group out there. It's not a group that fits well together, and they don't know how to play well together. Now, to end the half, Ty Lue actually takes Russ out and then brings in Terrence Mann, who isn't a great off-ball spacer either, but he's better than Russ. And this, again, we're going to create good offense. Zubac's rolling to the rim. We're going to kick out Terrence Mann. He's going to do something terrible. But I think these are more the lineups that we're going to start seeing, is that Harden has to be out there, Paul George has to be out there, Kawhi has to be out there to start and finish games. and maybe we're going to start seeing less and less of Russ. And to start the second half, this is a perfect example, again, of what I'm talking about. We're going to get a ball screen here. Everybody's going to be spaced in the proper spot. We've got, this is again, classic James Harden stuff. This is perfect. This is exactly what it should look like. But the problem is, this guy in the corner, this isn't PJ Tucker. This isn't Paul George. This isn't Kawhi. This isn't a spacer. This is a guy that the defense is not worried about. Jaren Jackson is there. There's no option for James Harden other than to kick this ball out to Russ. It's the right play. It's a great play. It opens up great offense for you as a team. And this guy just can't shoot the basketball, and it's a problem, man. Yes, he swings it. Yes, you get a decent look for Paul George. But if this is a spacer in the corner, if this is a guy that shoots 35, 38% on catch and shoot threes, this is great offense for you, and it's what you need when you have Harden on your team, and it's just not there with the starting group. Now, at this point, you can see this at the bottom of the screen. The Clippers have not scored a field goal basically since Harden came back into the game to end the second half. You might think, oh my gosh, that's Harden's issue. That's he's the reason that this team is getting ruined. You tell me that James Harden is the problem right here on this, okay? Russ is going to set a screen at the top. Zubats was going to set one, and then he's going to slip. And then look at what this creates. This is great offense. Harden doesn't want to pass this basketball to Russ. He knows what's going to happen, but it's the right play. He's open, and he bricks the shot. Again, you're going to make or miss shots, and Russ is still a good player. It's not a great fit for him. Harden being there is not good for Russ. But you have to maximize what Harden does well at this point in his career, and this is just not doing that. It's an interesting offensive set here to have the small screen and have the slip to the rim. It's just not a good outcome. And I like Russ. I like the way that he has played since he's got to the Clippers. This is a great example. He's active and engaged on the back line defensively. Biyombo's going to catch it deep. He knows that Biyombo's not very strong with the ball and gets a jump ball. I like what Russ brings to this team, but I don't think he can be out there when Harden is. I don't want to make it seem so negative about Russ just because he can't shoot the ball. He does good stuff. This is great energy and effort, and this is what he's brought since he's been in LA. Offensively, though, it's still a problem. Take that energy and effort level and compare it to what Harden does here. This is the kind of stuff. This is why you have to maximize James Harden offensively, because he's going to do stuff like this defensively. Yes, it's a switch. Yes, it's a bad matchup for you. Could we try a little bit, please? In comparison to what we just saw from Russ, this is an and one for Jaren Jackson. This is the kind of stuff that'll drive you insane. This is one of the reasons why you're minus 28 when you're out there, even though you're a good offensive player. Some kind of effort. I don't even know why I'm bothering with this, because we all know this is how Harden is at this point in his career, but some kind of effort here on the switch would be fantastic. Russ would not let this kind of stuff happen. And here's the difference. Couple minutes into the second half, they decide it's time for Russ to come out of the game. Here comes Norman Powell. Here comes our ball screen. Harden's going to get to the middle of the floor. And again, he's going to make the right choice. He's going to make the right decision. The difference is Norman Powell is a much better off-ball shooter than Russ is, and we're getting great offense. Again, how many clips have I shown in this video of the Clippers getting great offense? And in this case, just not making the shot. But Harden's creating a lot of good stuff for them when they use him the way that James Harden has always been used. It'd be nice to make this shot, but this is an example of why not having, Russ out there is going to be helpful for them at times, again, assuming Norman Powell can actually make some of these. And the core of the problem that we talked about earlier was that they cannot get their best players to all play well together when they're on the floor at the same time. And look at how much they come back. They're down 15 when Harden comes out, and he's still not in the game. There's 3 minutes left in the game. Norman Powell, Kawhi, Russ, Paul George, those are the guys that are on the floor. Harden hasn't come back yet because Ty Lue knows. He knows that this is their best group. He knows that they can't get this guy to play well with this guy, and he'd rather have Russ. They'd rather have his energy. They've played better without Harden on the floor the entire night. The issue is, as we go to the next possession, in today's NBA, you can't do that. Harden's got to come back on the floor for the last couple of minutes. There's no Russ. They go small here with Powell, Terrence Mann, Kawhi, and Paul George, and they're just going to try and create open shots from there. And they actually played decently well with Harden out there to end the game. He's just going to get basically a last-minute heave for a three here at the end. They're going to lose this game by 4. But the real issue for the Clippers at the end of the day, I think, is just that they need to figure out how to get Harden and Paul George and Kawhi, all those guys, to play well together, especially offensively. And right now, whether it be spacing, whether it be who they want to prioritize offensively, they can't figure out a way to make that happen. It's not impossible. They can still figure it out. They'll make some moves. They need a small ball 5 option. They probably need a better 5 in general. They need a little bit more spacing. I'm sure they'll try and get it figured out. And it is still early, but it has not been good at all to begin the James Harden era in LA.